In the parable of the unjust steward, Jesus lamented that the children of this world are in their generation wiser than the children of light. What does this mean? Well, we could paraphrase it by saying Christians are bad with money. Obviously, this is a generalization because there are many exceptions, but it is an accurate assessment of Christianity as a group. And it's no less true now than when Jesus first pointed it out. This incompetence with money is not just true in the context of public finances or general economics. It's also true with personal finances, but what's most disturbing is that it's true in church finances. So over the next few videos, I want to pull apart the doctrine of church finances and look at some of the main principles. The first principle that I want to examine in this video is the principle of stewardship. The New Testament doctrine of stewardship is something that every Christian should understand and fully embrace. To put it succinctly, stewardship means that the resources that we have are not our own, but we're supposed to use them as if they were our own. The significance of this principle is that we must arrogate the responsibility for what our money is used for in the church. Specifically, we must know how much we should give, and we need to know why we should give it. We need to know to whom we give it, and we need to know that the money actually got to them. Simply dropping checks into an offering plate with the attitude that by doing that we fulfilled our duty and that now the onus is on the elders and deacons to do what is right with the money, that's not good stewardship. In fact, it's not any kind of stewardship at all. Another aspect of stewardship is that we are not supposed to expect or wait for God to give us specific guidance as to how to use the money. I know it sounds spiritual to say that we're waiting for God to give us leading, but that's not what Jesus taught us. Jesus in his parables on the talents clearly explained that each person that has been entrusted with resources has also been endowed with the authority to use them as that person sees best. And Christ has given us tremendous latitude in this administration. Practically speaking, the only option that is not acceptable is to sit and wait and do nothing, even if it is out of fear that we might do something that he disapproves of. Now, this is not to say that everything that might be done will meet his approval, but rather that sitting and waiting for divine leading is already disapproved. A third characteristic of stewardship is the concept of individual sovereignty. What this means is that the church finances are not to be seen as a collective church endeavor. They are an individual responsibility. The collective outcome, as it plays out through the church, should merely be an agglomerated result of sovereign individual choices and actions. That is to say, that when the church gives to foreign evangelism, it's because a percentage of the individuals do so. When the church gives to a building project, that's because individuals designate their resources to that. Or when the church gives more offerings to one minister than another, it's because individuals designate more money to that person. This is not a collective agreement, and it certainly is not a decree from upon high. Suffice it to say that the church, as a collective entity, has no doctrinal authority over the money that it receives except within the parameters of how the individuals designate it or fail to designate it, whatever the case may be. The influence that elders can legitimately exert over the designations of the believers is strictly limited to informing their stewardship by properly explaining the nature and merits of each possible designation. And while the church, through the legitimate role of the eldership, can and should refuse to deliver any designation they deem inappropriate, they cannot arbitrarily redesignate that money based on their own criteria or interests. It doesn't matter if those interests are selfless or virtuous. If the elders judge that the church is not giving sufficiently to one fund or ministry, or giving too much to another, the only doctrinal solution is to better educate, inform the givers. You need to raise their awareness as to the status and merits of each fund. However, the greater need in the church is not awareness of any specific underfunded project. The greatest need in the church is to explain in detail the role of stewardship, because that's what's been thrust upon each of us, like it or not, ready or not, willing or not. The only option we have left to us is to play the game as well as we can. This means that we need to take it seriously. We need to inform ourselves of each possible ministry and project, thinking deeply as to the very nature of giving and what our personal responsibility is to each ministry and project. And in particular, empowering each giver to disagree and diverge from what any of the others deem to be the best distribution of their resources. We need to fanatically defend the sovereign right of every believer to give as we're persuaded in our own minds and according to our own consciences as unto the Lord.